Tonight, when you lie down in the dark, your phone will probably be the last thing you touch. You'll scroll for a few minutes, feel your eyes get heavy, and then you'll simply fall asleep. One long block of unconsciousness, 8 hours or so, and then you'll wake up to an alarm. But the real answer is far stranger. For the vast majority of human history, nighttime wasn't a single block of sleep at all. It was a rhythm, a pattern, a reason to stay awake. Your ancestors didn't sleep like you do. They had a name for what they did every night, and that word has almost completely vanished from modern human experience. Sleep historian Roger Ekirch spent decades studying historical documents, diaries, and literature from medieval Europe, and he found something shocking. People didn't talk about falling asleep at night. They talked about their first sleep and their second sleep as if these were two separate events, divided by hours of being fully conscious and alone. Between 10 in the evening and midnight, a person would lie down and drift off into what was called their first sleep. This could last 2 to 3 hours. Then they would wake up, fully alert, wide awake in the middle of the night. What did you do when you were fully awake at 1 in the morning? That's what we're trying to understand. And the answer reveals something about your ancestors that modern life has completely erased. They didn't panic. They didn't check their phones or turn on lights. They would get out of bed and do something. They might visit a neighbor. They might sit by a fire and think. They might work on a craft in the darkness. They might read by candlelight or pray. They might have sex or sit in contemplation or write. Some would visit the privy. Others would stare out at the stars. The night wasn't feared the way modern people fear it now. It was used. Anthropologist Carol Worthman has studied sleep patterns across modern cultures that still live without electricity. She discovered that in communities without artificial light, sleep is fundamentally different from ours. These people don't sleep in single blocks. Their sleep is polyphasic. They might have a main sleep period, but it's interrupted by a wakeful period where they're deeply relaxed but completely conscious. It's not insomnia. It's not a disorder. It's actually the normal rhythm that your body was designed to follow. Your ancestors' bodies were the same as yours. Your brain is the same, but your rhythm is completely different. This is the key. Artificial light changed everything. When Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, when electricity flooded into homes across the world, when we could make night into day at the flick of a switch, we didn't just change how we see. We changed how we sleep. We forced ourselves into an unnatural pattern, and we're still trapped in it. Before electricity, night was actually a time of deep social connection. People would stay in bed, but they wouldn't be asleep. They would lie in the darkness with their spouse or their children. They would talk. They would listen. They would share secrets and stories that only came out in the quiet darkness. Historians have found letters and diaries where people wrote about the profound intimacy of the second sleep period. Not sexual necessarily, though sometimes that too, but emotional, vulnerable, real. This wasn't sleep. This was a technology for connection, for processing, for becoming human in a way that daylight didn't allow. When electricity came, we lost this completely. Now when you're awake at night, you're supposed to panic. You're supposed to see it as a disorder called insomnia. You're supposed to treat it as a medical problem. But what your ancestors understood is that the night wasn't a place to fear. It was a place to think. Every single one of them, every night, spent hours in complete darkness with their own mind, without distraction, without screens, without the constant input of information. Just you and your thoughts. Neuroscientist Matthew Walker has studied how artificial light and electric light affect your circadian rhythm. He found that our bodies haven't evolved yet to handle constant artificial light. Your brain is still expecting darkness. It's still expecting a clear transition from day to night. When you flood your bedroom with light, when you stare at a screen until the moment you try to sleep, when you keep the lights on all night, you're fighting against biology that evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. Your ancestors didn't have a choice about this. The sun set and the world went dark. They adapted to that darkness. They built entire rituals around it. What would happen if you try to go back to that rhythm? If you slept for 3 hours, woke up, spent 2 hours in conscious rest, and then slept again? Some sleep researchers think this might be closer to what your body actually wants. But here's the problem. The modern world doesn't allow for it. You have to be productive all day long. You have to be at work at a specific time. You have to be responsive. You have a schedule that doesn't bend to biology. So you suppress your natural rhythm and force yourself into an 8-hour block. And if you wake up in the middle of the night now, you call it sleep disorder. Your ancestors would have called it life. They would have gotten up. They would have lit a candle. They would have worked on something with their hands. They would have sat with their family. They would have used that time. And when they felt tired again, usually after a couple of hours, they would lie back down. Their second sleep would come, deep and natural, and the night would be over. But in between, they lived. They thought. They connected. This is what we've lost. Not just a sleep pattern. A relationship with darkness. A relationship with slowness. A relationship with the parts of your mind that only emerge when you're not trying to be productive. When you're not being watched. When you're not being measured or judged or expected to perform. Your ancestors had a gift that you don't have. They had permission to be awake in the darkness. They had hours every single night where doing nothing was completely acceptable, where being alone with your thoughts was the entire point. The irony is that modern sleep experts now recommend something that sounds suspiciously like what your ancestors did naturally. They suggest that if you wake up in the middle of the night, don't panic. Don't check your phone. Don't try to force yourself back to sleep. They say get out of bed. Go to another room. Do something calm in the darkness. Let yourself be awake. Let your mind wander. And when you feel tired again, come back to bed. This is good sleep hygiene now. But it's just a natural pattern coming back bit by bit. It's evolution recognizing that we made a mistake. Think about the last time you woke up in the middle of the night. Really awake. Not half dreaming. Actually conscious. What did you do? You probably felt anxious. You probably checked the time. You probably tried to calculate how many hours of sleep you'd still get. You probably turned on your phone and scrolled until you felt tired enough to try again. Your ancestors would have recognized this moment as an opportunity, but you experience it as a threat. The night is still there. The darkness is still there. Your body still wants to follow that old rhythm, but the world won't let it. So you fight. You take melatonin. You try white noise. You black out your windows. You do everything you can to force yourself into an unnatural pattern because that's what modern life demands. And it works mostly, but it costs something. It costs the connection to your own circadian rhythm. It costs the slow, wandering kind of thinking that only happens in darkness. It costs the vulnerability and intimacy that your ancestors built into every single night. Tonight, when you go to sleep, you'll probably follow the same pattern you always do. You'll try to sleep through until morning. You'll see any wakefulness as failure. But somewhere deep in your brain, in the ancient parts that haven't changed in hundreds of thousands of years, you'll feel something else. You'll feel the pull of that old rhythm. The memory of a time when the night wasn't something to get through. It was something to live in. And maybe, just maybe, the next time you wake up in the middle of the night, you won't panic. You won't force yourself back to sleep. You'll remember that this moment, this wakefulness in the darkness, isn't a problem to solve. It's a memory of what you were always meant to do.